Imagine giving your all to someone, but no matter how hard you try, you never feel valued. You make efforts to make your partner happy, but you don't get anything in return. It's like you're invisible. When you're always the one doing things for the other person, but they never seem to notice or appreciate it, it starts to hurt. You begin to feel unimportant, and that takes a toll on your self-esteem. There are signs that show when you're not being appreciated. Maybe your partner never says thank you, even when you go out of your way to do something nice. You feel ignored or taken for granted, and the love and effort you put into the relationship don't seem to matter. It's a one-sided effort, and that can make you feel like you don't matter. For example, think about someone who always surprises their partner with thoughtful gestures, like planning dates, buying little gifts, or helping them with their problems. But when they need something in return, they get nothing. Their partner doesn't show the same effort, and the relationship begins to feel unfair. Over time, this constant lack of appreciation makes the person feel exhausted and invisible. When you feel unappreciated, it starts to affect your emotions. It makes you feel drained and frustrated. You might even begin to doubt your own worth because it feels like your efforts don't matter. This can hurt your self-confidence and make you feel disconnected from your partner. The emotional toll of being constantly ignored or undervalued can wear you down, and soon, the relationship starts to feel toxic. If you're always giving and never receiving, it's time to think about what you deserve. You shouldn't have to settle for feeling invisible. You deserve love, respect, and appreciation. If your partner isn't giving you that, then it's important to speak up and make it clear that your feelings matter. If they're unwilling to change, it might be time to walk away and find someone who values you as much as you value them. One of the most common signs that a relationship is in trouble is when communication breaks down. Healthy relationships rely on open, honest conversations, but when communication becomes non-existent or toxic, it can cause serious damage. When your partner shuts down, avoids difficult conversations, or gets defensive instead of trying to understand you, it's a clear warning sign. Signs of this issue are easy to spot. Maybe your partner never wants to talk about important issues or avoids any conversation that might lead to conflict. Instead of listening and trying to understand, they might shut you out, raise their defenses, or change the subject. This leaves you feeling confused, unheard, and frustrated. It feels like you're talking to a wall, and the problem only gets worse with time. For example, consider a relationship where one partner constantly tries to have meaningful conversations, but the other partner always shuts them down. They never open up, and every time something important is brought up, they either avoid the topic or react defensively. This leaves the person feeling like they're walking on eggshells, not knowing how to approach difficult issues without causing a fight. It creates a cycle of confusion, making it hard for both people to understand each other or find solutions. The emotional impact of this is significant. Communication is the foundation of trust in a relationship. Without it, you begin to feel disconnected, isolated, and frustrated. You might start to question whether your partner really cares about your feelings, and the trust you once had begins to fade. A lack of communication makes it impossible to build a solid, healthy connection, and over time, the relationship will start to crumble. If you've tried to improve communication, but your partner remains resistant, it's a sign things aren't going to get better. Efforts to fix the relationship can only go so far if one person isn't willing to meet you halfway. In such cases, it might be time to accept that communication breakdowns are a major issue and seriously consider whether this relationship is worth continuing. You deserve someone who listens, understands, and values what you have to say. In some relationships, you may find yourself walking on eggshells, always worried about saying or doing the wrong thing. This fear of conflict can make you change how you act, speak, and even think, just to avoid triggering your partner's anger or frustration. Over time, you start altering your behavior in every situation because you're constantly afraid of the backlash. You become hyper-aware of every word and action, trying to please your partner rather than being your true self. Signs of this problem are easy to spot. You're afraid to speak your mind, share your feelings, or even disagree with your partner. You worry that any little thing you say might lead to an argument, and you try to avoid topics that might cause tension. For example, you may feel like you can't bring up an issue without making your partner upset, so you keep quiet and bottle everything up. You might even start second-guessing your own thoughts and actions, not wanting to rock the boat. Consider someone who feels they can never fully express themselves because their partner reacts with anger or frustration whenever there's a disagreement. The person constantly wonders, will this upset them? Or how will they take what I say? This leads to a constant state of anxiety, making them feel like they are always walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict at all costs. Over time, this can make them feel trapped in a cycle of fear and stress. The emotional consequences of this behavior can be severe. Constantly fearing judgment or criticism from your partner can cause anxiety, stress, and a deep sense of insecurity. It can also lead to a loss of identity as you stop being true to yourself and start living to avoid upsetting someone else. When you can't be yourself in a relationship, it's hard to feel valued or happy. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, not fear. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, it's a clear sign that the relationship is not functioning properly. You deserve a partner who respects your feelings, values your opinions, and allows you to be yourself without fear of backlash. It might be time to step back and reflect on whether this relationship is truly healthy for you. In a healthy relationship, you should feel supported to grow and be the best version of yourself. It should enhance who you are, not make you lose your sense of identity. But sometimes relationships can slowly take away the things that once made you feel alive, leaving you feeling like a shadow of your former self. You may notice that you've changed in ways that don't feel like you. You might have lost the passion you once had for things you loved, or you don't feel like the person you used to be. One of the biggest signs of this is when you realize you've stopped doing the things that used to bring you joy, whether it's hobbies, friendships, or your career. You might have once had a strong focus on your goals and dreams, but now everything seems to revolve around the relationship. Maybe you gave up your passions to spend more time with your partner, or you let go of friendships that used to mean a lot. Over time, you start to feel consumed by the relationship, and it's as if your identity is fading away. For example, imagine someone who once loved painting and meeting friends for weekend hikes, but now spends all their time making sure their partner is happy, with little time left for themselves. They may feel drained and unfulfilled, but have trouble figuring out when they lost their spark. The relationship that once brought joy now feels like a weight, pulling them away from the things that made them happy. The emotional impact of losing yourself in a relationship can be deep. Even when you're with your partner, you might feel a sense of loneliness because you're not being true to who you are. Your personal growth can stagnate as you're no longer pursuing your own dreams or exploring what makes you happy. This can lead to frustration, sadness, and a feeling of being stuck. It's essential to prioritize rediscovering who you are. Don't let a relationship take away your sense of self. A healthy relationship should encourage you to grow, not hold you back. If you feel like you've lost yourself, it's time to reflect on what matters most to you and take steps to reconnect with your own passions, goals, and the things that make you feel whole. You deserve to be in a relationship where both partners support and empower each other, allowing each person to stay true to themselves. Trust is the bedrock of any relationship. Without it, a relationship can't thrive. When trust is broken, it becomes incredibly difficult to rebuild, and in many cases, it can never fully be restored. Trust is built over time through honesty, consistency, and respect. However, when lies, infidelity, or betrayals occur, they can erode the foundation of trust, leaving the relationship fragile and uncertain. Repeated lies, infidelity, or broken promises are clear signs that trust has been severely damaged. If your partner continuously lies about small or big things, or if there has been infidelity, it's a sign that trust has been broken beyond repair. Even after repeated apologies and promises to change, the behavior continues, leaving you in a constant state of doubt and fear. This repetitive cycle of hurt can leave you emotionally drained and unsure of where you stand in the relationship. For example, imagine a partner who repeatedly cheats despite apologizing and promising to be faithful. Each time they betray your trust, it feels like a part of your heart is chipped away. You begin to question everything they say and do, wondering if they're being truthful or if you're just being deceived once again. Even when they beg for forgiveness, the scars from the betrayal don't heal easily. Over time, you may start to feel numb, as if you're stuck in a never-ending loop of hurt and disappointment. The emotional impact of living in a relationship where trust has been broken repeatedly can be devastating. Constant doubt, anxiety, and insecurity can take a toll on both your emotional and mental health. You may find yourself questioning your self-worth, feeling like you're not enough, or even losing your sense of identity. Trust issues can lead to heightened stress, depression, and feelings of betrayal that may linger long after the event has passed. If trust has been broken repeatedly, it's important to acknowledge that the relationship might not be salvageable. No matter how much you want things to work, continuous betrayal can leave scars that are hard to heal. Sometimes it's healthier to walk away and prioritize your own emotional well-being. Relationships should be based on mutual respect and trust, and if these elements are no longer present, it may be time to let go and move on. Being stuck in the same cycle can feel like a never-ending loop, where nothing ever really changes. You find yourself facing the same issues repeatedly, with no resolution in sight, no matter how hard you try to fix them. Relationships should evolve and grow, but if you're constantly stuck dealing with the same problems for months or even years, it's a sign that things aren't moving forward. The signs are clear. You've tried to address the issues, whether it's communication problems, trust issues, or differences in values, but things always seem to return to square one. You find yourself having the same arguments over and over again, with no progress made. Every conversation about the problem ends the same way, with neither partner willing to change, or worse, both partners feeling unheard and frustrated. Despite your best efforts to make things work, the patterns don't shift, and it feels like you're trapped in a cycle that keeps repeating itself. For example, consider a couple who constantly argue about finances. One partner spends money irresponsibly, and the other complains about the lack of budgeting. Each time they discuss it, they promise to make changes, but within weeks, the issue flares up again. No real solutions are ever put in place, and the cycle continues. Over time, this constant back and forth takes a toll, leaving both partners frustrated, resentful, and emotionally drained. The emotional impact of being stuck in the same cycle can be profound. Frustration begins to build, leading to feelings of resentment and emotional detachment. You start to wonder if things will ever change, and doubt begins to creep in. The constant disappointment wears you down, and you may start to feel like you're living in a relationship where your efforts are wasted. Instead of feeling connected and supported, you begin to feel isolated, like you're not making any progress, no matter how hard you try. If nothing changes despite your best efforts, it may be time to break the cycle. Sometimes, no matter how much you want to make it work, the relationship becomes stagnant. It's essential to recognize when it's time to let go and move on. Relationships should be about growth, compromise, and progress, and if those elements are absent, it's important to acknowledge that the cycle isn't going to break on its own. Over time, people change. It's a natural part of life. We evolve as individuals, develop new interests, and shift our priorities. However, these changes can sometimes mean that two people who were once closely connected begin to grow apart. It's painful, but it's also a sign that the relationship might no longer be serving both individuals in the way it once did. The signs are clear: you no longer share the same hobbies or interests, your values don't align as they once did, or perhaps your life goals are moving in completely different directions. You may find that the activities you once enjoyed together no longer excite you, and the conversations that used to flow so easily now feel strained and forced. The emotional connection that once felt so strong now seems to be fading, leaving you feeling more like strangers than partners. For example, consider a couple who used to enjoy going hiking every weekend, bonding over nature walks and long conversations. But over time, one partner became more focused on career advancement and the other found solace in spending time with family and friends. The once shared experience of hiking now feels more like a distant memory, and instead of feeling close, they feel like they're living separate lives. The excitement and intimacy they once shared have slowly faded, replaced by silence and isolation. The emotional impact of growing apart can be significant. As the distance between you grows, so does the sense of loneliness. You may be physically present with your partner, but emotionally you feel disconnected. This growing divide can lead to feelings of sadness, frustration, and even guilt. You start to wonder if the relationship is worth continuing, especially when the things that once brought you together now seem irrelevant or unimportant. It's important to recognize that growing apart doesn't mean either person is at fault. It's simply a part of the natural progression of life. If you find that you're no longer on the same page, it's okay to acknowledge that the relationship has run its course. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and your partner is to accept that it's time to move on. A relationship should support and nurture both people, and if you've grown apart, it's okay to let go and allow each other the space to grow into the people you're meant to be. Abuse, in any form, should never be tolerated in a relationship. Whether it's emotional manipulation or physical violence, the signs of abuse are often clear, but many victims struggle to recognize them or are too afraid to leave. Abuse doesn't just harm the body, it deeply damages the mind and soul. No one deserves to be treated this way, and if you're in an abusive relationship, it's vital to take steps to protect yourself. Emotional abuse can be subtle but damaging. It often starts with insults, belittling comments, or manipulation. A partner may use guilt or shame to control your actions, making you feel worthless or inadequate. Over time, the constant degradation erodes your self-esteem and leaves you doubting your worth. Physical abuse, on the other hand, may involve hitting, pushing, or other forms of violence. Both types of abuse can leave lasting scars that go beyond what's visible on the surface. Consider the example of someone who is constantly belittled by their partner. They may hear phrases like "you're not good enough" or "you'll never succeed without me." The verbal insults might be followed by manipulative behavior, where the partner twists their words or actions to create confusion or guilt. The emotional impact is severe. The victim begins to believe they aren't capable of making decisions on their own, or that they don't deserve love or respect. The fear of what might happen next, whether it's an angry outburst or physical violence, adds an overwhelming layer of anxiety. The consequences of abuse extend far beyond immediate harm. Emotional abuse can lead to feelings of worthlessness, constant fear, and anxiety. Victims often isolate themselves from friends and family, believing no one would understand or that they can't escape. The emotional toll of abuse can also lead to depression, self-doubt, and a loss of personal identity. Physical abuse, meanwhile, leaves bruises and injuries that may be hidden, but the physical and emotional pain lasts long after the bruises fade. It's important to remember no one deserves to be treated this way. If you're in an abusive relationship, it's crucial to seek help and remove yourself from that environment. Abuse is never your fault, and there is support available to help you rebuild your life. Their safety and well-being must come first. Leaving is often the hardest decision to make, but it's the most important one for your future. In healthy relationships, both partners share the responsibility of maintaining the bond. Love, respect, and effort should flow both ways, creating a balanced and nurturing connection. However, when the relationship becomes one-sided, it can feel like you're the only one putting in the work, leaving you frustrated, exhausted, and emotionally drained. Signs of a one-sided relationship often appear when you find yourself always initiating conversations, planning dates, or fixing problems, while your partner remains indifferent or uninvolved. For example, imagine a person who is constantly emotionally available for their partner, offering support and care, only to be met with indifference or silence when they need the same. Their partner may avoid conversations about important issues or show little effort to contribute to the relationship's emotional growth. Real-life situations like this can be incredibly painful. A person might feel as though they are doing all the emotional labor listening to their partner's problems, offering solutions, or comforting them while receiving little to no emotional response in return. This can be particularly challenging when your partner remains emotionally unavailable, leaving you to carry the weight of the relationship. The imbalance creates a feeling of neglect, as though your needs are being ignored or undervalued. The emotional impact of such a one-sided dynamic is significant. Constantly giving without receiving can lead to burnout, where you feel drained, unappreciated, and even resentful. The frustration of trying to fix problems or initiate meaningful conversations only to be met with silence or apathy can lead to feelings of loneliness, even when you're in the relationship. Over time, this imbalance can erode self-esteem as you start to question whether you're worthy of equal effort and attention. If you find yourself carrying the weight of the relationship alone, it's essential to step back and reassess the situation. Healthy relationships are based on mutual care and effort. If you're the only one putting in the work, it may be time to have an honest conversation with your partner about the imbalance. If things don't change despite your efforts, it may be a sign that the relationship is no longer fulfilling your needs, and it might be time to move on for your own emotional well-being. At the end of the day, happiness should be the cornerstone of any relationship. While every relationship has its ups and downs, feeling consistently unhappy in a relationship is a major red flag. If you're no longer finding joy or peace in your connection, it's a clear sign that something isn't right. Signs of unhappiness in a relationship can manifest in different ways, but the common denominator is that you feel unhappy more often than not. You may feel drained, exhausted, or indifferent toward your partner, and the relationship no longer seems to bring you the happiness it once did. For instance, imagine waking up every morning with a sense of dread or irritation, feeling more burdened than supported. When the thought of spending time with your partner doesn't excite you, or you struggle to find reasons to engage, it's an indication that the relationship may no longer be serving your emotional needs. Real-life examples of unhappiness often include situations where a person no longer looks forward to spending time with their partner or even feels emotionally distant, despite being physically close. If you feel like your partner's presence drains your energy rather than lifts you up, the imbalance may have reached a point where it's affecting your overall well-being. The emotional impact of constant unhappiness is far-reaching. It can start to bleed into other areas of your life, work, friendships, and even physical health. Anxiety, stress, and a lack of motivation can become constant companions. The emotional weight of staying in a relationship that no longer brings happiness can make you feel stuck, as though you're living a life that doesn't reflect your true self. It's important to remember that you deserve to be happy and fulfilled, and sometimes that means making tough decisions. Don't stay in a relationship just for the sake of it or out of fear of being alone. Choose your happiness, even if it means walking away. Staying in a relationship that drains you emotionally does not serve you in the long run. You owe it to yourself to find peace, joy, and love, whether that comes within the relationship or outside of it. In this video, we've explored 10 powerful signs that may indicate it's time to let go of a relationship communication breakdown: walking on eggshells, losing yourself, broken trust, repetitive problems, growing apart, abuse, one-sided effort, constant unhappiness, and emotional detachment. Each sign is unique, but they all point to a deeper issue, something that affects your well-being, happiness, and personal growth. Ending a relationship is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary for your own peace of mind and future happiness. Leaving a relationship, no matter how long it's been, is a painful and difficult decision. It's normal to feel conflicted, lost, or even guilty. But remember, your personal growth, mental health, and happiness matter most. The relationship that no longer nurtures you can hold you back, and choosing to walk away is often the first step toward discovering a better version of yourself. This decision isn't just about ending something, it's about making space for new opportunities, new growth, and new love in the future. Take a moment to reflect on your own relationship. Are you holding on to something that no longer serves you? Are you constantly sacrificing your happiness for the sake of someone else? If so, it might be time to make a difficult but necessary decision. Your happiness and well-being should always come first. Don't be afraid to prioritize yourself. You deserve love, respect, and happiness. Never settle for less than what you truly deserve. You have the strength to move forward, to find healthier relationships, and to live a life filled with joy and fulfillment. If this video helped you, hit that like button, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more real talk. You've got this.